everybody, welcome back to the channel. We just want to thank you guys for watching this very new segment, Beers and Deers. We're not really sure where this is going to take us, but we kind of have a lot of ideas on where the various topics we want to talk about. 2023 season, the 2024 season, where we're going with the channel, and various topics and all that kind of stuff. Just everything hunting, basically, is what we're going to be talking. All kinds of hunting, predator hunting, deer hunting, bear hunting, just about everything in between.
This year, Charles and I had a very, very exciting hunting season. And I tell you, if I was thinking back over the season, Charles and I probably put in, if I had to take an educated guess, we probably put in about 40 days this year hunting. Easy hunting. Yeah,
it was easily.
The unfortunate thing about this season is we were out there bear hunting. We did a lot of bear archery hunting. We didn't do much rifle hunting here in our home state of Pennsylvania for bear. So that was kind of a disappointment. I would say that through the group of guys that we hunt with, there was only one real sighting of a bear this year. I don't understand that. Where we hunt, there's a lot of bear out there in Somerset County. So that was kind of disappointing this year. Rifle season was kind of one of them where you hit or miss, because, you know, hunting public land is very, how should I say?
Challenging.
Hey, good word. Good
challenging
word.
And it really makes you think about, it makes you hone your skills on whether you, because in Pennsylvania at least, more people hunt rifle than any other, and you could have people that have no clue what they're doing, and they just, my dad shot 100 deer in here and over 50 years, and my grandpa shot deer here, and they sit in the same exact spot, and they might be sitting in your spot, and you didn't see them throughout all of archery season, and it kind of makes you adapt. And I'd say adapt too. It's challenging and adapting.
We definitely adapt this year. I can remember early in the season, Charles and I missed some great opportunity. We talked about the big one that we were hunting, and we got a lot of footage of this big old boy on the camera this year back home here. But we took the first week and a half to go out to Ohio. We'll talk about Ohio at another day. That was kind of a disappointment. But we had a couple missed opportunities this year. We had some great excitement. I tell you what, we had some nice buck come in. We had two occasions where we had two nice buck come in on us this year that we just didn't get the footage of it. We were down on the ground, and I tell you, what a disappointment, because the one was definitely a breeder bruiser. I mean, that boy was a bruiser. The other one was a scraggly 6-point when we were sitting down on the ground. But see, that's the awesome thing about hunting is everywhere and every time you go out, you're always learning something new, especially on public land. Public land, you could be hunting the same area for week after week and not see a deer. And then the crazy thing is, because of the pressure and stuff like that, deer will pop up out of nowhere. The more people that are out there, the more they push the deer around. That morning, I tell you, it was a really cold,
very chilly morning. The day we saw that big one. Is that what you're talking about? The big one?
Yeah.
And that was disappointing. And looking back, we didn't technically know what was there. We kind of had an idea that, hey, we knew deer were coming through there, and that's really all we knew is deer are coming through here. We're not sure how big the buck is. We saw the buck rubs, we saw the scrapes, and we weren't sure how big he really was. And it was a cold morning, like you said. It just finished snowing the 2 days before. The snow just melted, and it was maybe 28, 30 degrees that morning. And we were sitting in the perfect spot looking over. We're just off this logging trail, and we're looking at the scrape about 20 yards out in front of us. And man, it was like a freight train coming through the woods.
It dried out, and man, I thought it was a man walking up the side of the hill.
Yeah,
I thought it was that group of guys that we seen putting a drive on coming up through.
It was like nothing I ever heard before. And I remember you were sitting to my right, and you're like, look behind us, because I was kind of angled to shoot the deer coming, because we thought it was coming down the logging road.
Yep.
And he came behind us up this deer trail that we knew was there, but we didn't even think about he was even coming that way.
He was sneaking through that laurel.
And he came through, and I tell you what, all I saw was antlers and a body, and he was big, and about 20 yards and right in line with Dad. Like it was any more perfect. It was right in line with you.
But the laurel was so thick behind us that's what kind of saved us.
It was, yeah, for sure.
He kind of, when he came up on us, and I'll be honest, I didn't see him because he was behind me. From what Charles was telling me, he came up that trail and up through that thick laurel, because we were hiding in that thick laurel in some scrub oaks we were sitting in. And as he come up that trail, I mean, we're sitting there, we're getting excited, and we're sitting there. And like I said, I thought it was the two guys that we had seen before in the morning, and they were putting a drive on coming up that hillside is what I thought they were doing, pushing them off. And I tell you what, when he come up over the top there, I could hear it. And I mean,
it sounded like a freight train coming through the woods.
Through them, he was coming with a mission. And you got to remember too, that was middle of the rut too. He come up over the top of that mountain, or that ridge there in the middle of the rut is where he come up. He was looking for some hot does, and I tell you, I wish I would have got to see him, but I tell you, I heard him run off. And like Charles said, I think a lot of where the problem was on that one is we were sitting on the ground. If we would have been up in the air, which is this year, we learned a good spot to be.
Learned a lot this year.
For
next year.
We were in a good spot for that. But see, that's the trial and error of hunting public land. We got our favorite areas that we like to go to. But this area here, we kind of knew the travel corridors and stuff like that. But you can't sit everywhere every day. You just can't do that. This here spot that we're talking about is probably, if you guys watched the videos when I was in the shooting box and shot that one doe this year, we're probably 275 yards from that shooting box, but up on the back side of us. So we kind of like to try to move around because the deer move. They don't always hang out in the same area. So, and then if you hunt the same areas all the time, the deer get kind of keen to seeing you. So you got to move too. That's the thing about hunting public land. I mean, I don't mind hunting public land, but some of your favorite hunting spots, like a lot of what you guys seen footage of this year, is our private sanctuary, where we got a lot of deer on camera. But we know those deer are going through there, and we let them deer pass and wait for opportunity to shoot other deer, and we come back in there and shoot them deer if we don't get anything as the time goes on, because opportunity, I mean, you only get so many opportunities in a hunting season. In 40 plus days in the field, that's between archery and going into after Christmas into muzzleloader, which this year we didn't do any muzzleloader hunting. Usually we put a weekend at muzzleloader hunting near the end of the season there after Christmas. But this year we just didn't have the time at work and the vacation and stuff to do that this year. But we had a lot of great hunting. There was an opportunity. If I remember, we were hunting in the morning. We did a morning hunt, and we seen a bunch of deer come down off the one hillside. And Charles says to me, "Yo, Pops, we got to go back out there this evening." And we went out there, and I tell you what, the excitement and the deer movement of that. Do you remember that morning or that evening? There?
It was an evening like I've never seen before. It was, yeah, that was something that we were hunting there the night before, and we were hunting on the other side of
the creek.
The creek, yeah. and we saw them on that side. They were probably like 150, 125 maybe yards, you would say. And I seen them coming down off the ridge line. Dad was looking up the hill. I was looking down the hill, across the creek, and across.
Yeah, that was an archery season.
Yeah.
That was mid-archery season when we were seeing them.
Yeah, that was early archery. That was when muzzleloader was in. And we were sitting there, and I was watching them come down through. And I said, Dad, we got to sit over there tomorrow night. We got to, I don't know. I've never sat there before. And we sat in this spot, but we've always, that was actually the spot where we saw the deer come in at like 7 feet.
Yeah.
That deer, it was.
If you follow us, 2 years ago, we were sitting on the opposite side of the creek looking over into that open, and then there was a ridge coming down on the open side. So if you guys have followed us and watching the videos, last year where Charles had several opportunities to shoot the two doe that was in front of us, and if you remember the deer that snuck up right between us and was like 7 feet on top of me, that was across the creek and up on the ridge side. Now, we don't normally hunt that side, but seeing the deer movement that we have seen in the past, we decided to go into that this year. See, once again, hunting public land, deer move all over the place. So the deer that are over there on that side of the creek are not necessarily the deer that we're hunting on our side. Now, do they cross lines? Absolutely, they do. And the buck, definitely. But that night, I tell you, we were sitting in there, we got nestled in, and we got in some, we got in between some pine trees and got ourselves nestled in there and kind of got ourselves hidden into some natural cover there. And them pines. And I tell you, Charles was probably, we were separated by like 50, 60 yards away from each other. And we're watching the ridge side because we know that that's how they're following, because up on the top of that ridge, there's an open field and they like to come down after they eat. They come down off that field. See, that's other stuff you got to, as an avid hunter, you got to know the contour and the geographics of your land and what you're hunting, and figuring out where the food source is and where the travel corridors are to the bedding area. And like I said, Charles and I we know this area, but they're up on the top during this time and they're feeding. They're coming down off the bottom there in the evening now, and they're working their way into the bedding area in that nighttime. And we just happened to sit in there that night. And I tell you, probably, and I didn't get to see him. Charles got to see him. The unfortunate thing is things happen so fast out there that you don't always get the opportunity to video everything. Just like this year, I had a doe that I killed. It happened so fast I didn't even get to video it this year. But we had two good buck sightings, the one that we talked about earlier, and the second one where that buck come in from our east, and we had a good wind that night in our favor, even though we were hunting the ridge, and he was off to my right, if I'm not mistaken.
So, yeah, we were sitting... You were sitting looking up this side of the ridge, because it kind of like, the way the two came together, they came together into like a funnel.
Exactly.
And we saw the deer the night before coming down the funnel.
Exactly.
So we tried to cut them off there at the bottom of the funnel, and we tried to shoot them coming down off the funnel. Well, unbeknownst to us, this buck walked right past probably where we would have been sitting the night before.
Yeah.
And he came in behind us, and I don't even remember what
he was running his scrape line.
Well, I don't remember what made us turn around and look behind us. We thought maybe it was a squirrel or something. I don't really remember what happened, but I remember he came in and there was a tree down, and you were sitting on the other side of the tree, and he came probably within 10 yards of you. Like, it was right there, and he came in beside, and I had maybe a clear shot at 40 yards, but it wasn't going to happen. He was coming in so fast, and he came in right beside you, and I don't know where he went, but I tell you what, he was a nice 6. He had some long horns on him for being a 6, and he
was running that rub line in there, and that pine line is what he was doing. And
Yeah,
I mean, I can't say for sure, but after investigating it, he was running that rub line that evening.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, he was on the search of some hot does. And the way that they were coming down off that ridge, they were coming down and then they were headed towards the west.
Yes.
Even though he came in from the east of us behind and come off the side, and he was probably going to meet up with them does on the opposite side of us.
Yeah.
As you said, you know, you're sitting out in the woods and you can't sit there and look for every squirrel, every little rabbit or every little bird that moves. You got to sit still. And in these two instances, I didn't get to see them, but I know there was something there. And Charles got to see both opportunities of these deer. Either way, we would have never got shots off at them because the first one was in the Big Laurel. And then this guy was in us
within, even if he would have came in front of us, he winded us.
Yeah, he did. He was on alert coming in through there. Even though he was trolling in through there, that first one coming through the Laurel, he did. He
knew something. I don't know if he knew something was up, but he knew something. And as soon as he smelled, it was over. And we both knew it.
Yep.
But I mean, you can't help that. That is what it is.
Yep, and that's one of the neat things about hunting the public land is you just the excitement of you got to be out there and you got to see what's going on. And I get frustrated because I mean I go to these local stores and I go to these high-end retailers and I see these guys that go in there 2 or 3 days before the season opens. And there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, you got to get started somewhere, but I see these guys come into these retailers and stuff and they're buying everything off the shelves, orange and hats and this and that and coats and bows and guns. And you know what? I tell you, I am all for them being out there. It might be a little dangerous, but I tell you, hunting public land is some of the most exciting hunting you'll ever do. Because what it does is it makes you hone your skills, like Charles said earlier. I mean, these guys that are hunting farms and, you know, going out to these reserves and all this other stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is if you're going to be a good hunter, you got to be doing it the hard way. And you don't get them every year. And there are people will tell you they've hunted years and years and years and have never killed a deer. There's guys that have hunted years and, you know, they might see 2 or 3. But that's the cool thing about hunting public land is you always have the same fair opportunity everybody else does. The difference between me getting one and those people getting one is the amount of time that you put in the early season and how much time you're willing to put when you're out there and it's time to kill. And that's why we're always keeping our eyes peeled and we're always doing our homework and watching what's going on out there. But overall, I think this hunting season, we had a great opportunity to kill 3 deer this year.
That was awesome to do. I mean, we killed more deer this year than we killed in 2023 than we killed in 2022. But I mean, I think it really, I look back and I think about the missed opportunities we had. I mean, opening day, we could have killed one.
Yep, but you let that doe go on you.
Yeah.
But you know,
we didn't know, and we were leaving the next day. I mean, it was a quick turnaround for us. We had her coming in, and then we would have had to butcher her that night, and then we were turning around and going to Ohio the next day. And we made the right decision, even though looking back, Monday morning quarterback, you're like, that was not the right decision. At the time, it was the right decision.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm not second guessing anything. Look, we got 3 in the freezer, so what? It might have been 1 extra one. But at the end of the day, we got 3 down on the ground this year. We got 3 good kills on the cams this year. I tell you, the season in itself can't get any better if you're not out there.
Oh, and my goodness.
You got to be in the field. And if I can express anything, you got to be in the field. I mean, we turkey hunted this year. We did some bear hunting during archery season. We did early muzzleloader season because in the state of Pennsylvania, we got an early muzzleloader season for 1 week that overlaps the archery season. Charles did some muzzleloader hunting. We didn't get anything during that time. But I tell you, you got to be in the field, and you
Yes.
got to keep your eyes peeled.
And
You
I
just
think
gotta.
I think that's the biggest thing, other than being out there, is keeping your eyes peeled. Because if you're not ready, and you're not keeping your eyes peeled, that deer is gonna come in on you, and you're gonna be sitting there like a deer in headlights, and the deer. I mean, no puns intended, but you're gonna be the one in deer in headlights. You want the deer to be the deer in headlights.
Well, look at the one where I was sitting in the shooting box this time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sitting there facing that way, but I'm looking down the opposite side because I had so many deer moving around me that morning. Good cold morning, snowed that night. We had a nice little dusting. I'm looking out the window. I got the window behind me, and here I got one like 7 yards off of me, 5 yards
Yeah.
off me, and she busted me looking out the window, and we see her tail going down the road. I mean, if I would have gave her another, say, who knows, if I would have gave her another 3 or 4 seconds and didn't move, and I'm sure that's what it was. She was so close, she didn't even know I was there until I moved. I know I had to have moved or whatever, and she was on top of it. She knew what was going on, but it was a great season. And
2023 will be a season that we'll remember, and we'll be looking back over that footage, because it was a great year, and we actually got a lot of footage off it, a lot of footage that we could have had, but this year.